Hello everybody, here we are today doing a playoff preview for the Hamilton Tiger Cats against the Montreal Alouettes. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So here we are again, Montreal and Hamilton, which suddenly feels like a norm in the playoffs. Of course, we've seen them in recent years clash in the postseason, and this is going to be yet another chance for both sides to be able to go out there and try to advance to the Eastern Final, where they will go on to play Toronto, whoever that will be. So with this being said, and Hamilton being 8-10, the underdogs, and then Montreal being 11-7, the favorites, what are some storylines to talk about for this game? So the first talking point is Montreal's knack for scoring non-offensive touchdowns. This has been something that I've talked about a lot during the season, where I said I know that Montreal's offense or their points per game total isn't bad, but in general I don't really love their offense. This season I should say, they had 43 total touchdowns. 12 of those were non-offensive touchdowns according to the CFL, which led the league. So special teams, whether that be defense, they were able to get up a lot of points that were not for the offense. And at the end of the day, they were able to win 11 games, but still, this is something you got to watch out for because it works both ways in this game. If you have Montreal go out there and get a pick six, that's 7 points that they get right there, where Hamilton could have gone on a drive and scored 7 points for their own. But at the same time, if you are Montreal and you've kind of got into the habit, that bad habit, I do think that the offense, might have got used to, even though they won't admit it, and probably don't even think about it themselves. I guess this is more of a me thing, is they probably are aware that even if they have a bad day, their defense at times can bail them out. You really don't want to see that be the case here. You want to see the offense be able to go out there and click, and they do have the potential to. They've been able to put up a lot of points in certain games. However, at the same time, let's say that the offense isn't going well. Can you realistically rely on a non-offensive touchdown yet again? And what is Hamilton going to do to be able to take those precautions on defense and especially on special teams? Special teams is probably the easiest way you can avoid allowing touchdowns, so that is going to be something you want to make sure to keep clean and try to not obviously throw pick sixes or have fumbles. So the second talking point is, what is Montreal in terms of the tier status? I would probably argue that they are a middle tier team and are really the only middle tier team, I think, in the playoffs this year. With the league being as small as it is, I really think the three favorites are, surprisingly, BC, Toronto, Winnipeg, and then Montreal, despite being 11-7 and having their first 11-win season since 2012, aren't really there. Against the three teams that I just mentioned as being the contenders, they went 0-7 this year. The rest of the league, they ended up going 11-0. That includes games, obviously, against Ottawa. That includes games against Edmonton when they weren't playing particularly well. I think they played them earlier in the year. But, again, playing against Hamilton, a team that has dealt with a lot of injuries this year, especially with their quarterbacks, they've been able to take care of the bad teams. But at the same time, with the fact that they've relied on a lot of non-offensive touchdowns and the fact that those have been some close games in some of those games. Sure, they've been some blowouts in some of the other games against these bad teams, but there's been some bad games. Where exactly do they stand? And even if they are a middle tier team, is that good enough to get them through to the Eastern Final this year? Or will the fact that they've been, mediocre at times against some teams that they probably should have beat by more catch up to them, and then they end up losing in the semifinal? Third talking point is, what about Bo Levi Mitchell, a guy that is a former MLP, a guy that's won multiple Grey Cups. Talked about him in my BC Calgary preview a little bit, or I talked about the fact that he was able to win multiple Grey Cups. He's a guy that Hamilton was really hoping could be their starter at the start of the season. They didn't play particularly well, got injured. The Tiger Cats had to go with Schultz, they had to go with Powell, and Bo has come back and not really had a great year even when he has come back. The stat line doesn't look terribly great. In his biggest game, I believe, was against the Ottawa Redblacks, where he threw for like 350 yards, but he had 5 interceptions in that one. Some of those throws were obviously bad when you end up with 5 interceptions in a game, and for Bo Levi Mitchell, he's a guy that probably would like to get things back on track. He kind of has a card up his sleeve against the Alouettes defense in the sense that they haven't seen him play with Hamilton except for the final game where he threw 10 passes. So I look at it like this. He is going to be an X factor, obviously, because he's probably going to get a lot of reps in this game. But two, because Montreal's defense really isn't going to see him all year, except for that small amount that he ended up playing, or just a small amount of times that he ended up passing the ball. So with this, I would say that Bo might have an edge. Another reason, too, is the fact that Toronto locked up the first seed so early in the year. So you kind of knew that Montreal and Hamilton would probably have the Eastern Semi-Final between each other, so even though Bo is getting back in the swing of things, you can kind of focus on film a little bit earlier and say, oh, why don't we take a little bit of time to watch Montreal's film from this week? Why don't we try to do this? And allow yourself to be able to figure out some of the schemes that they're doing, figure out how they rotate guys, all that stuff. So I would say that if Bo is able to have a good game, Hamilton's odds of winning this are significantly boosted. The fourth talking point is, can Montreal's defense handle the quarterback change? So Bo Levi Mitchell and Matthew Schultz will reportedly split reps or get different reps in this game. Not too surprising, obviously, the CFL being the way it is. You see backup quarterbacks go out there and try to go on 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, this is not really that situation. Schultz is going to go out there, and Schultz is probably going to get an opportunity to pass. Schultz has got some playing time in just the past couple of seasons, has been able to get a better feel for the game, or just get more of an opportunity to get more reps, which is never a bad thing. So if Bo goes out there and things aren't working at the time, maybe they can throw in Schultz, and then Bo can go on the sideline and then watch some film, figure out again what they could be doing. So if things get to where they get flustered out with Schultz, throw Bo back in there. It's just one of those deals where, with the two quarterbacks situation that they have right now, and with Kyle Oxley as the third on the depth chart, they can do a lot of fun things there. I would say for the defense for Montreal, they already are scheming for both of them. You know that Bo will not be nearly as mobile as Schultz. Schultz is going to be the guy that you have to watch out for with his legs, but at the same time, a guy that can throw it deep if he wants to. So you have to be careful. He might get out of the pocket, and you can try to want to pursue him. But at the same time, the secondary has to be very aware of the fact that he will throw it downfield, and that could be a big touchdown. And again, with Bo being there, who knows how they end up splitting up the reps. So overall, what are my thoughts for this game? My pick for this was one team originally, and then when I went through and kind of did some of my notes, I switched, and I still feel very conflicted. So my opinion is, for this game, obviously Hamilton wants their quarterbacks to play well, but at the same time, you like to see James Butler get involved early. This has been a guy that can go off for a lot of yards in a game and can do it against really good defenses. He's been able to terrorize really good defenses at points this year, so try to get him the ball. There's been multiple games in this series, regular season series between the sides, if you will, where the Tiger Cats didn't get to run the ball the way they wanted to. Butler is one of those guys I would like to see probably get 20 carries if you could, if he's having a good day. Punish the Owls. You know that if you can get yards on their defense, that your defense gets a break themselves. And with Montreal being kind of streaky on offense, you'd be in a better position to kind of get things closer to where the score might be a little bit better. And this is going to be a good one. You've got Montreal that's got a lot of good guys defensively. You've got Austin Mack. You've got so many guys on Montreal's offense. You've got a lot of good special teams play that could be a factor in this one. So now it's time for my pick. And I originally picked Hamilton, but I am switching to Montreal. I think the biggest thing that swayed me here was the fact that obviously they were 11-0 against teams that weren't Toronto, BC, or Winnipeg, but mainly the fact that you have two rusty quarterbacks in Schultz and Bo that are going to be going out there. Can they perform the way they want? We know at times that this offense has not been able to do what they've set out to achieve, and we know at times the defense has not been able to perform particularly well. Montreal's defense has been able to make a lot of plays this year. If they get a break on special teams, they have the opportunity to win this one and go back to the Eastern Final. So I am picking Montreal here, but I feel much more conflicted about this playoff game compared to the other one. So let me know what your picks are down below for this week, whether it be BC or Calgary or Hamilton or Montreal. Let me know down below in the comments. And everybody, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night.